All right, good evening. Today is Tuesday, August 6th, 2019. Welcome to the Sweet Talk. I am your host, Kim Matina. I am a Google certified trainer, educator, and a gold product expert in the Google for Education, CS First, Jamboard, and Expedition Help Forum. And I am a technology teacher. And I am so happy to have on my show today Stephanie Howell. She is a technology integrator coordinator at her school district, as well as a Google certified trainer and Google certified innovator. Welcome to the show, Stephanie.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be on here. I love watching and listening to the podcast and getting tons of great Google tips and ideas. So thank you.
No, thank you. I know you're going to be sharing your Google Innovator project with us, and I really think there's so much there, and it's really great for you to be on today to go over it because I know you sent out some information to people recently who subscribed to help you, which was me, and it'll be great to hear what you how you came up with the idea and really what the purpose of your project is. And why don't you give us a little background about you and then like what the Google Innovator project is or Google Innovator is.
Mhm.
And then you can just dive right into your project and explain it and all.
Yeah, so I applied for the Google Innovator Academy and I woke up, I think, at 4 a.m. when we found out who was accepted, and I was shocked. Getting tons of Google Hangout chats that morning was insane because people were from all around the world. We had people from Sydney, Australia, and that's the academy that I went to. We had people from New Zealand, the UK, Canada, everywhere, and everybody's like blowing up my phone, and I'm like, what is going on? Later to find out I was accepted into the Google Innovator Academy. And I couldn't tell anybody because I had to make sure I could get approved with my boss to take off that time in May to attend the academy because in the United States, we're still in school. And so, I'm waiting until our meeting. I think I scheduled it like at 11 a.m. because that was the first time we both could talk to each other. So I'm holding this excitement in all morning. Finally, I got the okay by him, but then I had to go to the superintendent. So then I'm just waiting a little bit more. And then finally, I think it was like 4 p.m. He's like, okay, you can go. You can tell people. And it was amazing, the experience. Yeah. So Google really knows how to build their culture. And it was really cool to see from Google's viewpoint because you hear about Google, the free food and how they treat their staff and everything like that. But actually experiencing it for a couple of days was amazing. I tell my district if Google will hire me, that is the only reason I will leave Pickerington Local School District. So I am still waiting for that invitation, but I'm hoping that day maybe sooner than later. But it was just amazing. The people there, I think, is what made the experience. And just the openness to accept feedback and give feedback was nothing like I've ever seen. Normally, it's kind of like a culture of no, but we can't do it because of this. Where at Google, it was like, you're going to use the attitude of yes and. So people were building upon your idea to make it stronger. And it was just so positive rather than feeling down the entire week. And it was just an amazing experience.
Yeah, I have to agree. I've experienced it myself a few times and
Uh-huh.
I feel the same way. Just it's upbeat, it's positive, it's a yes and attitude. And I attended one of their summits for the product experts in Mountain View in 2017,
Mm-hmm.
and they they spoke about the no but yes and attitude, and then I brought that to my classroom, and
Uh-huh.
I'm instilling that into my students in my classroom because I think it's a very important perspective to have when you're in any field.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I
Yeah.
mean, and I brought that back to my district. And we've worked a lot with Jimmy Casa too, who is a principal and he's won tons of awards and he does speaking around the whole world. And so he's come in and he's kind of helped build that culture too, because it's just something that school districts need to have is that positive culture because our students need it. I didn't realize how much it was lacking, like the design thinking process with our students, until I went to Google Innovator. So I'm going to go into kind of why and what my project is. So the reason why I applied to the Google Innovator program is you have to come up with a problem. You can't have a solution. And that's hard for me because I am a problem solver. I don't like to sit there and not think of having a solution. And you had to do that for the Google Innovator program. I mean, I've heard the number one reason most people don't get accepted is because they come up with a problem and or the solution, and they tell that solution in their video, in their writing, and then they don't get accepted because Google wants you to collaborate with others at the academy and to really problem solve, and not to already have a closed mind about this is what I'm doing. I already solved this issue. So I thought that was kind of interesting and kind of difficult for me. That was definitely a mind shift. And I began teaching as a special education teacher. I taught inclusion, so a lot of my students had dyslexia, autism, cognitively delayed, and there was a huge gap between the different depth of knowledge levels that my students were experiencing. So it was interesting because at the academy, a lot of people from Australia never heard of Webb's depth of knowledge, and some people even in the United States. And I just thought that was a popular term because we use it all the time in our district. And come to find out, they had no idea what this philosophy even was. And so they were more on Hattie's work because Hattie is from Australia and using more of that visual learning. So I'm kind of adding both of those together because of all the people that I met from Australia and their love for Hattie, and kind of taking those two learning theories and kind of meshing them together. But I taught students, so a lot of my students that had dyslexia, they really struggled with recall. That basic recall of information, they were unable to do because of their working memory, and they just really struggled with it. However, when I took a lesson and I moved it more to that depth of knowledge of like level 3, where they had to like justify and kind of defend their answer, they were much stronger and they were able to make more of that connection with their learning. And so this is kind of where my problem began, because so many teachers teach at that DOK level 1 and 2. They don't really go past level 1. A lot in my district, they don't, like we do a Kahoot game. Well, that's more of a DOK level 1 activity because you're just asking those what, who, when type questions, and you're not getting the students to justify their answers or use multiple sources and create a PowerPoint or Google slide or some type of video to show your learning. And it kind of stopped there. And so that was my problem. And I have no idea how to fix it. That's why I'm still in the feedback phase of my project. And so my user, you have to find a user with the Google Innovator Academy. And so my user, her name's Bella. She struggled in school. She had dyslexia. She would come to me. We had a really good relationship. She would struggle with that basic recall type questions. And we made learning, we used gamification to help her. We used higher level of thinking to help her because she was so creative. I mean, Bella, she could draw. And so we used her abilities and her strengths to work those 5 C's in to higher levels of thinking. And she actually grew, 2 grade levels by the end of that year because of all of those different activities that we were able to do with her that year. And if I would have focused on that level 1 activity, she wouldn't have seen as much growth because she couldn't use her strengths. And she felt down when she was supposed to stay at that recall level. And I truly believe
because they're not engaged at that point.
They're not what?
Engaged.
Yeah. She hated school. And by the end of that year, she was excited to come because we were able to use those 4 C activities. She was able to use her strengths. She didn't feel stupid because that's kind of where she was at. And I mean, a lot of our dyslexia students, they're not dumb. They're excelling in the real world, in schools where we're failing them. So we need to do something to change that, because in the real world, they are, the top-notch people out in the world changing it because they think differently.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah,
need
and
those people.
accommodated themselves throughout their schooling to learn how to cope with to read or to write or to solve the problem or whatnot. So I agree. I I agree with that definitely. So
Yeah.
why don't you so how did you so you came up with the problem through your special education students and saw that they needed a deeper level of learning. So now walk us through the next phase, I guess.
So once I found my problem, then at the academy, you try to decide what you're going to do to solve this problem. So I had my problem and I decided to look at the depth of knowledge from web and try to create activities that aligned with the activities based on web's depth of knowledge and that level of thinking. I also wanted to incorporate the C's because those are engaging activities for students. And that's a huge push in our district right now is those C's, and companies want students to come to them, with collaboration, critical thinking, creativity, those type of skills. And so my project at the academy was supposed to be this website, and it looks nothing like it does today. So that was totally okay. And like Google even told us, if you want to change your project now, you can. They were fine with you changing it after the academy because it's so open and accepting of that. So my project, it kind of, I don't even know if I have I was like, I might have it right here. Let me see if I can find it. It's a hot mess because you had to draw it out. Oh. So here was my website. So it kind of looks like my website now, but not really because I've got, the DOK levels here. I've got video instructions. And I'm one of the type of person that needs to process information. I can't just respond quickly when it's like something big like this. So I'm meeting with all these, other Google innovators at the academy, and they're providing me feedback. They're like, well, what about your EL students that are going to struggle with vocab? How are you going to help them? How are you going to help teachers that don't understand the directions because this is such a huge project? It makes sense to you because you've been processing this for months, where they are just looking at it for the first time. And then we also looked at barriers. So like a big barrier for me is time. Teachers don't have a whole lot of time in their day.
Yeah,
There's not
everybody
a
has that barrier.
there's not a whole lot of professional development. And if there is, it's already scheduled for the year because there's so much that teachers need to work, that we need to learn and work on. So it was like that. And then talking with other districts, it was other barriers that they had, like money and different stuff like that. So it was just interesting to hear everybody's different perspectives. And the Google Innovator Academy really pushes you to reach out to Twitter, to reach out to, the SCPLN, others, Googlers, like trainers, innovators, to get their feedback. And for me, that was hard at first because I'm like, I hate feedback. Some people aren't nice. So that was really hard for me to just reach out. And I was more of an introvert before going into Google Academy. I was one that was like, okay, I'll post on Twitter, but if I see you at a conference, I'm probably not going to go up to you unless you come up to me. And Google was like, no, you are going to get out of your comfort zone and you are going to excel in this area. So it really pushed me to do that. And so as I'm finding resources on Twitter or through different websites or blogs, I'm asking those people if I can use their resources in my project. No one said no to me yet, which I think is amazing because I think our community is very different between like ed tech and, just teachers, because you've got teachers pay teachers. Well, everyone's like, here it is for free on ed, like ed tech type of people. So that was nice. And then I like reached out, to like Matt Miller and asked him for some thoughts, and the Teach Better team. So I've been working with like a ton of different people that I wouldn't have reached out to. And they've been offering so much feedback and support on this project that it's not my project. It's our project, and everybody's helping me with it.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I find that the people in my Google circles they're all very helpful. And,
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had any like bad interactions or negative experiences with anybody. Everybody's very friendly, very helpful, and willing to lend a hand. So I have that same experience as well, which is nice because, like, I have no problem asking people for help.
Yeah, I
So, like,
completely agree.
exactly like what we just went through here with Zoom. So
Yeah.
I have no problem reaching out to my PLN and asking them, hey,
Mm-hmm.
what can we do in replace of Google Hangouts Live? Um, because you know what, we're learners too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how we learn. We learn from each other, and that's exactly the reason why we do these things, right? So we can help each other and learn and grow and pass that along to the kids.
Yeah, I definitely say if you find an idea, reach out to them, ask
Yeah.
them if you can use it. It's because it makes you connect with others.
Yeah, and
Um,
most people they want to help you, so they're not going to turn you down.
yeah.
So now why don't you explain some, so you explained your project, so why don't you give us a summary of what all of it is, because I know it's a lot as I see
Hmm.
the email that I received from you, but just give us a brief summary of what you're looking for feedback and different things, so that people, when they sign up, that they'll understand what they're getting from you.
Yes. So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the website. If you would like to sign up, it's right here is the form to sign up. It tells you about Bella and how she struggled in school. And then it's just some photos from the Google Innovator Academy. This is just kind of a welcome page. And then if you want to know more about Depth of Knowledge, because a lot of people don't even know what it is, this is a great resource. There's different videos. There's a course. This is by the Teach Better team. It's fantastic. I highly suggest going through it. It makes you a lot stronger in thinking of those different depth of knowledge levels. And then there's a lesson idea that Matt Miller did. Some other resources on this page just to help you start thinking about what is depth of knowledge. Because I assumed people knew and they didn't. So that was a mistake on my end, because I learned quickly don't assume. And you can't if you're going to make this a global project.
Yeah.
So then every month there's going to be a different drop down. And so for August, the strategy is relationships. And so every month is going to have a different strategy, and all the strategies are kind of based on Hattie and his levels of what he believes is the most going to be like the game changer for students to move, to close those gaps and make the most progress in that year. So relationships is huge. If you don't have a relationship with your students, they might not want to be there to learn. There's a lot of factors that go with relationships. And this was true with my test scores. My second year of teaching, I looked at my test scores. I went, I like that kid, I didn't like that kid. And you could tell which kids grew because I had a strong relationship with them. And the kids that I didn't, they didn't grow because I didn't make that connection with them. And looking back, I'm really sad that I didn't make that connection with them.
Well, that's
So,
at least you admit it, and now you're trying to change and do something different. So that's all you can do right now is just reflect on that. So this,
mm-hmm.
when I got the email, I saw this. I'm like, this is like probably a key component to actually start to build that relationship right in September.
Yeah.
So it was nice to be able to get this now. So at least,
Mm-hmm.
I can look it over and check it out and see what I can improve on, and others as well.
Yeah. So then you'll just click this little arrow. It's going to open up to a Google Doc. This is probably the best way to look at it. And DOK level 1, again, is, just that who, what, kind of where, when type questions. So it's just a Google form. Yeah, you can take that data and look over it over time. But again, you're not going to get to know the kids as much as you could in the other activities. And that's kind of that second year of teaching. That's kind of where I stopped with some of those kids. I just did that survey. I had their information, but it didn't really go too much deeper. So then moving to the DOK level 2, which is a is the next level, and it's working on skills and concepts. And it's kind of talking about like, how will the knowledge be used? How can you arrive at the answer? And so this is a Google slideshow, and it's a would you rather type question. So every morning, kids come in, you have to take attendance. Students add their names to which one they would rather do. You have a quick attendance right there because you know which students did not do it. You call on 5 students and you just say, okay, why did you pick to be a giraffe and not a bear? Every day you're building these relationships with your students. Yeah, they're silly questions, but you're really, as you're asking why, you're really starting to get to know them as a person. And then the third one is a timeline. So students write out their biggest, their most important events in their life. So it might be like the day that they were born, a day that they won a basketball game. And they can either choose 1 or 2 prompts. They can either tell you more details about one of the events that they talked about, or they could predict what's going to happen to their future based on what happened already. So maybe based because they went to, they were YouTube, they started that, they're going to become a YouTube star. Could be an example. And then you're really getting to start to know your students' hopes and dreams and taking it a little bit further into their life. And then finally, Kevin Butler, he's amazing. If you don't follow him on Instagram, I highly suggest you do. However, you'll watch his Monday morning meetings. They take like 10 minutes and you're just sitting there watching them because you're so engaged with how he interacts with his students. So he does these Monday morning meetings, and every Monday he picks one kid. He is the talk show host with him, and they do games. They talk about the weekend. They do all these different activities, and he really gets to know his students over time. So every month there's going to be 4 different DOK levels and a different strategy. So like next month is vocabulary. So we're actually going to start getting into instruction and how we can improve instruction, where August, teachers just need to focus on relationships, I think.
So this theme, relationships, the teacher should actually do that every day for the whole month of September. Is that what you're saying?
I think it depends on the classroom. Again, like kindergarten to high school is completely different classrooms. And so you might do DOK one time because it's a quick Google form. You have that data. And then you might do a would you rather every day, every other day, depending on how your class is set up. So some of my high school teachers, they can't do a would you rather, all day. So maybe they pick a different class throughout the day to do it with.
Okay.
Morning meetings are going to be really difficult for a high school teacher because they've got 180 students, if not more.
Yeah.
So they might have to do this monthly, bi-weekly. They might have to change this activity for something else that they can fit into their schedule. But my middle school teachers, they've got time built into their schedule to do these the morning meetings. Okay. So I think it really depends on the classroom.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I was talking to one teacher and she goes, well, I'm not going to do the Google form. I want to do a Flipgrid. So instead of a Google form, she's going to create a Flipgrid so she can learn students' names and what they like and don't like using Flipgrid. And that's totally fine. As long as you're building relationships with your class, it might not look at this. I just want teachers to start thinking about the different levels of depth of knowledge and how we can reach those.
Yeah, like you said, it doesn't matter what tool you use as long as you're
Mm-hmm.
hitting the target with the levels, because that's what's important at this point here,
Mm-hmm.
But I do agree with the Flipgrid anyway, because then at least you see the student's face, and then you can visualize the name with the face with the name. So
Mm-hmm.
it's more visual at that point. But again, it doesn't matter what tech tool as long as you're doing the depths of knowledge with them.
Yeah.
The activity. So it depends on, your classroom environment, your schedule, of course, your grade level, your availability, and all that. But even if you do, like you said, if you do the recall week 1, maybe 1 day or 2 days, whatever, and then week 2 you can do every other day
Mm-hmm.
for the skill concept, or maybe it's a whole week.
Yeah.
It depends on like you said, depends on your schedule and the kids and what you feel how you can incorporate it. Because really,
Hmm.
it won't take long to do any of this stuff,
Yeah.
you
And I
know.
mean, you have to do it everyday relationships because you've got to build those relationships with your kids. It's not just going to be a one and done type of activity.
No, no. I mean, in this age, the school year is kind of like, you're getting to know them. It's all about me, you know, presentation or, some type of project. This could be
Hmm.
incorporated all in there while you're doing that. And then
Hmm.
you're you're actually accomplishing that relationship plus you're getting that other piece done as well. So I think it's a really great idea. This is really nice. And you have it all laid out here, so it's
Uh-huh.
and you're actually given different ideas on what you can use, like what other tech resources you can use with it, um,
Hmm.
and then like obviously the students, they create it all, and you have it digital, so you can
Hmm.
refer back to it later on during the school year if you
Yeah.
do. So that's nice. I
And
really like
then thank you. And then additional resources are just different podcasts I've listened to that talk about relationship, different books I've read. Like you could do, different activities like edu protocols, and you could interchange those with these different activities if you didn't like something up here, it won't work with your class because every class is different. Um, and so
Yeah, but
there's just,
you kind of just gave people the idea and the theme and
mhm.
the activity. Obviously, they can change it.
Yeah. And so like one of the teachers, she's going to send me her checklist for Flipgrid. So I'll probably add that here as people suggest more ideas because we have to build as a community. So as people are sharing more ideas on how we can add more activities to build these different levels of depth of knowledge, they'll probably just go in the additional resources area.
Right, right. Yeah, no, that's a really good idea because then at least you have a different perspective on
Mm-hmm.
how people are doing it, what grade level, um, and to see how they switch it up as well. So I think it's definitely something to try. You know.
Yeah. And so then I have additional resources like videos or just quick overviews of how to use the 4 different levels. I tried not to go over, 3 minutes, and I told people just reach out to me if you have additional questions. I'm more than happy to jump on a Google Hangout, whatever we need to do to help and support other districts. I'm more than happy to. And then down here is where I really need feedback. So then the teacher feedback, did students even like the activities? Because if they didn't like them, then we need to switch them up. And
Yeah.
why didn't they like them? And then celebrating. So was there a success moment where there was a student that you didn't like and now you've got that really strong connection with? And then is there a way that I could update a DOK activity? Is there something that you used in your classroom that we could add to the list, or that one of these activities was just awful and you didn't think it aligned with DOK? Because DOK is so opinion. It's really hard because some of the activities you're like, well, this could be a 3 or 4. How you use that Google form could technically be a 2. And so it all depends on how you're using the activities. So providing that feedback to me, because I'm no expert, I'm learning. So providing that feedback will help me. And so that every month you'll get a different strategy and it will look pretty much like August, the layout. It's just going to have different activities, different topic. And then I want teachers to have a whole month to try those different activities. They can go back to them throughout the year if they need to. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
because
so that's my project.
some teachers may, like they get a set of new kids after like, a marking period, so that they would have to maybe do this again, maybe in
Mm-hmm.
January, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
December. So it's always going to be, it could always be like a revolving process as well. So, like for like a related arts teacher, they constantly get new kids,
yeah,
every so often, whatever it is, maybe every 25 days they get new kids, or maybe after every marking period, but they would have to repeat that.
mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. No, I really like it. That's awesome, Stephanie. I wish you
Thank
luck with
you.
that. That's awesome. I think
Yeah.
I think it's practical. That's why, like, like sometimes things people think of aren't practical and they're not worth your time. But
Uh-huh.
like in education, it's important to build relationships with your peers and your students so that
Mm-hmm.
you help them feel successful and they feel comfortable and safe in your classroom. So
Yeah.
for me, like, this is totally, it's just practical, it makes sense. And I think with if you show this to other educators, they're going to agree, because it's not like um you're not you're not taking something that's abstract. It's We're already doing it. You just
Mm-hmm.
kind of put in some type of framework in place for guidance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, this took me, I had over, I think I looked at the draft review like a couple weeks ago and I had like 694 changes.
Oh my
Like
goodness.
that's how much Google stretches you.
Yeah.
um,
And it's good though, because
yeah.
you're learning that part of it, and then you're helping other people too. So
Yeah.
kind of like full circle.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
people know, like, this is like your project. So you're not looking to perfect it right away, you're looking for feedback. So if there's something, a suggestion, you're going to take that into consideration and try to um improve it or include it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
Because
so some other things that helped me like organize this, just like with Google, was Google Sheets. I have a to-do list on my blog, and I organized it by months because that's the way my mind needed to work for this project. And so, like, here's just an example. This isn't quite, but just to remind me, like, send out feedback, to get feedback from people, send out the project to the people that said they're interested. And so this to-do list really helped me.
yeah, yeah, we
Um,
have to have lists to keep
yeah.
track of.
Yeah. And then another one that I wanted to share was Toby, because I talked about this on your Facebook page. So Toby is an extension, and this is it. So you just open a new tab. So I just hit that plus sign, and it opens up Toby. Instead of having 20 some tabs open, these are my tabs that I would normally have open, but they're closed, and then you can just click on them. And it opens that web page that you have like as your favorite. So Toby has saved me with my project by clicking quickly for what I needed.
So Toby will allow you to save your pages, most commonly used pages, or is it?
Um, yeah, so over here it shows your open tabs, and you just drag to the category
Oh, I see.
that
Okay.
you want. And then so this saved my organizational life too. Like, okay, I need to click here because I need that page.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
actually nice then, because then
yeah,
I see you have different sections for your web pages. So if you wanted
yep.
to go into your other, so if you
Yeah,
wanted to, just say you wanted to open up all of your tabs for professional development, you can do all that at one time.
yep. And there they go. So you can see them
Oh,
all open up.
see it now. Yep. You click on
And you can make different categories. Like I can share this with my ed tech team. I can share this with my technology teachers. Here's my Google Innovator. So you can see like things to do in Sydney, any extras, important things that I needed to know, important links. And I shared this with my team that kind of went with me from the United States, just so we could stay organized.
Is this like a history, or is this kind of things that you're actually saving in here?
I have to drag my open tabs to where I want them to go.
Okay,
So
so
you
you're
have to
actually
do that part. Yeah.
customizing it. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's good, because sometimes you don't always want your history
Mm-hmm.
in there. So, oh, I like
Yeah.
that. I'll have to try
Yeah.
that.
So I wanted to definitely share that because this was huge, because Google sends you so much information once you're accepted into the academy. And I was like, I don't know what to do with all of it. So I started a Toby. I shared it with people because they needed the same links as I did. So like we did travel plan sheet.
Yeah.
We had a spouse survival guide so they could connect with other spouses that were going. We had a Google map of everybody and where they were located. We had our hotel. And it just made everything a lot easier. We had the Twitter, hashtag Sydney 19, the Google Innovator hashtag. and it was all there for us. So
Oh,
it's definitely a time saver.
I'll have to check that out. What icon is it on your toolbar there?
It is this pinkish one with that T.
Okay, I see it. Okay.
Yeah, and I put it in the show notes too.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Thanks for sharing.
You're welcome.
Oh, that's awesome. Wow. That, I mean, so in the show notes, Stephanie's got all of the information there to her website. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen really fast. Make sure. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, so, all right. Where am I going here? So I can't. So let's tell you the dilemma. So um, YouTube live events doesn't use Google Hangouts anymore to record um, live. So Stephanie was nice enough and patient enough to uh, walk me through and troubleshoot Zoom. So now I'm on Zoom and really have no experience with Zoom. So this is a first for me as well. So, okay, I just learned how to move that to the bottom. So yeah, so we're always learning something new here on This Week Talk. But anyway, Stephanie put all of her links in the show notes here. And this will be on my website so you can follow her Innovator project, maybe sign up and try to participate and help her out as well. Everything will be collected in a Wakelet collection as well. So if you click on that link, Wakelet will have all of the links there. You can come to my website, thesweettalk.com. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel, podcast as well. And I'm actually giving out a screencast back to school promo. If you subscribe to my YouTube channel and fill out the contact form, I will send you a free 30-day premium subscription to Screencastify. So you have to subscribe between August 5th and August 24th. And that's basically it. So I'm back, right? You see me?
Yep, you're back. You did
Right.
it.
So we did it. We got through Zoom and we got through with the recording, and it's always fun to connect and learn something new from my guests. So thanks for being on, Stephanie. I really appreciate it. It was very nice meeting you. I'm then looking forward to helping you out with your project as well as I start the school year too.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good day. Bye.